We've done a lot over the last 4 years, which is how long it took to actually design, build, to test, perfect the limiting factor, which is now the deepest diving operational submarine in the world. We completed the 5 Deeps expedition off the coast of Svalbard in the Arctic Ocean. And then we dove in the Mediterranean for a while. We dove on an old shipwreck of a French submarine. We dove in the Red Sea. We dived to the bottom of the Mediterranean with Prince Albert of Monaco. And now the ship went all the way halfway around the world to Guam. And here we are again, going back to the Challenger Deep, where we're going to be mapping it again and actually physically surveying all 3 regions of the Challenger Deep to really get a detailed topography, as well as taking down the first 4K camera and seeing what it looks like in such incredible detail, as well as doing more filming. And then after that, we're going to go to the northern part of the Mariana Trench, which has never been visited by a manned submersible, and do a lot of science work. And then later we'll head over to the Philippines and maybe do the deepest wreck dive in history, as well as dive in the Philippine Trench, which again has never been visited by a manned submersible. So a lot of firsts for this submarine and the crew here that we're all very excited about.
After a record-breaking start of operations for the Hadal Exploration System and its limiting factor submersible, the Pressure Drop and its crew are docked in Guam, preparing for a set of new missions to the deepest parts of our ocean.
One thing I was hoping to achieve for this dive series was continue to expand the number of people that have gone down to the bottom of the ocean, because it is a very intense experience. And it was shocking to me, no woman had ever been down. And so I was looking for who is the best person to be the first woman down. And Dr. Kathy Sullivan definitely seems like the right person. She was the first American woman to spacewalk. She's been up in space 3 times. She was a former administrator of the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration. She has a PhD in ocean-related studies, so she's just the right person. And she's just a great person to be with 13 hours inside of a small submersible. What I'm most looking forward to is, like all the firsts that we've done with the limiting factor and on our dives, is just experiencing these things with someone else and really being in history. While I don't want to make too much of a big deal out of it, yeah, it'll be a historic event. Not just being with, but piloting the first woman to the bottom of the ocean and seeing her experience as a trained oceanographer about what she's seeing and how it feels.
With an exciting mission ahead, crew and guests are being brought in from around the world during the coronavirus pandemic. This was a logistical challenge, and to ensure the safety of guests and crew, COVID protocols were put in place, such as mandatory testing for all those coming aboard, sanitizing of all luggage and equipment brought on board, and masking during visits from outside individuals. These measures provided a safe environment for all on board. Once everyone had arrived and gone through a safety briefing, the crew and guests celebrate together with a barbecue on the last night in port before departing for this groundbreaking mission.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to those that have rejoined, and big welcome to those that are joining for the first time. So thank you for all the extra effort that was required to get to the start line. We have a big week coming up. This will be our second visit to Challenger Deep, and we'll be turning the next chapter, if you like. This is about taking that daily flight to the moon, and then we'll deploy a lander for the day because we want to collect some measurements. And then once we've recovered the lander in the evening, we'll head across to the eastern pool and be positioned for our first dive.
With landers deployed, Mapping measurements collected, and pressure drop in position over Challenger Deep, the crew makes its final preparations for this historic dive that will not only get the first ever 4K footage of Challenger Deep, but more importantly, see the first woman to ever visit the deepest point in our oceans.
I'm Kathy Sullivan, oceanographer, astronaut, and soon to be DSSV Triton limiting factor diver. I'm probably best known in my space career for the spacewalk that I had the privilege of doing on my very first flight in October of 1984. It was a 3.5-hour long spacewalk to demonstrate the feasibility of refueling satellites in orbit. That was a prospect that the space shuttle offered, but that no customers had taken advantage of yet. So Dave Leisman and I got the job of going outside with a real high-fidelity mock-up of a Landsat satellite system and proving that NASA had the tools and the safety provisions that would let us open up a fuel tank full of very toxic propellant and safely fill it up. And to now add the Challenger Deep as the complement to that, the bookend to that, will be great, great fun. You know, a space shuttle and the limiting factor look very different on the outside, but if you step back a bit, they're shaped differently, but they're doing the same thing. A sealed canister that keeps either the too much pressure or the too little pressure out, keeps the temperature inside within a little range, make sure you have something to breathe. So if you've had this sense of adventure, if you've had one of these challenge myself exploring experiences, I think it leaves something in you that kind of wants to be there again, wants to reach again and strive again.
The Challenger Deep holds a special place for anyone involved in oceanography because it is, in a way, the inverse of Mount Everest. It is the deepest point. It's actually deeper than Mount Everest is high. And the conditions there are just incredibly difficult to put mechanical devices or a living human being. It's 16,000 pounds per square inch. The temperature is just above freezing, and it's in salt water, which is highly corrosive. So it's an even more hostile environment than space. That's why fewer people have been down to the bottom of the Challenger Deep than have walked on the moon. Now, apart from that, once you do that and you have a system that can dive there, it just opens up the whole rest of the seafloor. Because if you can dive at the Challenger Deep, you can dive anywhere.
Roger that, understand. Swimmer clear. LF, this is SO. You're clear to start pump and start your pumps and dive.
Oh, and I'm pumping in.
Roger that, Godspeed.
The first launch of this dive series has been executed without issue. Now, Victor and Kathy begin a 4-hour-long descent to the bottom of Challenger Deep. As they move deeper, virtually all light from the surface vanishes around them. At the surface, Pressure Drop is monitoring LF's progress with periodic communication via an acoustic transceiver and text message. As Victor and Kathy descend over 33,000 feet, the temperature drops to around 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and they put on warmer clothes.
Surface, LF, present depth, 10914.
At bottom. Repeat. At bottom.
At bottom. At the bottom.
The crew is ecstatic that LF has once again successfully reached Challenger Deep. But shortly after this transmission, communication is lost between LF and Pressure Drop.
Surface, LF, present depth, 10915.
With no comms to the surface, Victor decides to press on and search for one of the landers. Fortunately, he's able to locate it, but they're experiencing some battery issues that seem to be affecting other systems as well.
Thought this was going to be an easy dive. Autopilot, bearing the landers.
Yeah, man, we were just going to drive along.
Now I got partial thrusters, no bearing too.
After an hour and a half on the bottom, the surfacing weight released early, ending the dive as limiting factor begins ascending to the surface.
Just got a surface status message from him, 10,400 meters.
Yeah, it's coming up already.
Weight released.
Yeah.
Victor later discovered he had simply forgotten to verify that the main internal batteries were recharging from the larger outside batteries. After almost 6 hours of continuous operation, they had drained and per the sub's safety system automatically released the surface weight. Like a well-oiled machine, the crew of Pressure Drop execute another successful recovery of limiting factor, and Kathy emerges to be greeted by everyone on board.
Yes, I got a new title today, according to my irreverent friends. I'm now officially the most vertical girl in the world. I like the ring of that. It'll do.
It was great. First astronaut to go down to the Challenger Deep. I've never been in space, so it was fun to talk about the similarities and the differences about going up versus going down.
Word of Victor and Kathy's historic dive spread quickly. Soon, Pressure Drop received a call from some faraway friends.
Big submergence vessel limiting factor. This is the International Space Station. How do you read? Over.
ISS, this is DSSV Pressure Drop. Kathy Sullivan on this end. We read you loud and clear.
Hello, Kathy. This is Chris Cassidy, Bob Benkin, and Doug Hurley on the International Space Station. Wonderful to hear you and connect from space to the surface.
Kathy is the first astronaut to go down to the bottom of the ocean, so we're very proud of her, and the first woman.
That's outstanding, Kathy. Congratulations. What a great accomplishment. And
It's like having a craft that can make daily trips to the moon, considering how exotic and impossible it has been in all of history up until now to get to the Challenger Deep.
Congratulations on your scientific accomplishments in the deep underwater, as we're trying to accomplish the same on the International Space Station.
Really appreciate you guys making the time from what I know are super busy days to make this connection.
Absolutely, Kathy. Maybe someday we can meet and talk about it someplace in the middle of the deep sea or the International Space Station low Earth orbit.
That's the deal. I'll buy the first beer, you buy the second. Over.
That's the deal.
All right. Thank you, guys. Pressure Drop out.
ISS out.
All right.
Well done.
Well
That was
done.
cool. That was really fun.
Yeah. Not a bad first day of diving.
While the first dive has been completed successfully, it was a simple mistake that ended the dive slightly early. With dives to full ocean depth, withstanding 10,000 plus psi for hours on end, small electrical components need to be thoroughly checked even after the slightest issue. While the team works around the clock, expedition leader Rob McCallum assesses the schedule to see if there's any room for a delay. A meeting is called, and the decision to delay diving by 3 days is shared with the rest of the crew and guests. With 3 days of downtime, some of the crew and guests have a relaxing swim in the deepest pool in the world. On board Pressure Drop, one of the most essential crew members is the chef. He's charged with purchasing, maintaining, and cooking food for everyone on board. This is no small task, as the crew of Pressure Drop can reach 35 or more people, and some of the expeditions can include an extended time at sea with no return to port for reprovisioning. Lander operations were also conducted during the 3 days delay to collect as much scientific data from Challenger Deep as possible. Soon, the Triton team had completely checked out the sub and ensured it was ready for diving the next day. Vanessa O'Brien is the next passenger in line for a dive. Like Victor, she's summited Everest and has a chance to become the first woman to reach both Challenger Deep and climb the world's tallest mountain.
It's a Mariana Trench dive. Here I am, your pilot, Victor Vescovo, with Vanessa O'Brien, her first trip down. my 4th. So let's try and make this all work. We are currently at 10,853 meters, 53 meters off the bottom. We are looking good. And when we get to the bottom, we're just going to gently settle and touchdown.
Yay!
Bottom of the Challenger
Well
Deep,
done.
10,914 meters. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
The first woman to climb Everest and go to the bottom of the ocean.
With the first man to do the same. Well done, you.
It's been another successful dive and further proof of the Hadal Exploration System's capabilities. With one dive left before returning to port, Victor will be returning down to Challenger Deep with John Rost, who's climbed the 7 summits and is about to become the 10th person to visit Challenger Deep.
It's about 5 minutes. Should start seeing it lighten up. See, I can already start to see it lighten up.
Yeah.
It's the bottom of the ocean, John.
Oh, there you go.
You see it?
See it.
Touchdown. Congratulations. You're at the bottom of the ocean. 10th man in history.
All right, my man.
10th person in history. Surface, LF, present depth.
10925 meters.
Life support good at bottom. Repeat, at bottom.
Good job, Eric.
Although successful, the dive took its toll on the limiting factor, and it needs a few days of maintenance. But fortunately, the Triton team will have it, as the ship is now heading back to port in Guam. It's been a groundbreaking expedition so far, with an incredible team of people. And after the ship docks, this current group of guests will have one more night to celebrate with the crew. And then, a new group will take their place for the next leg of the expedition. The next specialist diving with Victor has an historic connection to Challenger Deep. Kelly Walsh is the son of Don Walsh. Don Walsh was one of the first 2 men to the bottom of the ocean, along with Swiss engineer Jacques Piccard.
In 1960, my father, Don Walsh, at the time lieutenant in the United States Navy, traveled with Jacques Piccard to the Challenger Deep, 7 miles below the surface of the ocean. It's just part of the lore growing up with him as the guy who dove to the deepest point in the oceans. It seems strange to a lot of people, but it was just something that was always part of my growing up. You know, Dad went there. He did that. And now I'm going to do it.
As the ship nears its next departure, the Triton team is rechecking the electrical systems to ensure they'll withstand another planned 3 dives to Challenger Deep.
So it's been several days of repairs. And so we have that port side all back together again. Looks like that's running good. We've just taken the starboard side apart and we've got it back together. And so far it looks like we have a submarine. So, which is really good. We're just going to load the batteries into the battery trays and then we'll slide it in and do a full run up on the submarine. But I think we got her.
The rest of the crew also has their hands full preparing to depart port. Reprovisioning the ship's supplies is another essential activity done before pressure drop can go back to sea. With final preparations complete, pressure drop leaves port once again and begins the journey back to Challenger Deep. In preparation for the next set of dives, Victor goes through safety briefings with his next set of passengers and works through a pre-dive checklist on the submersible. In the morning, they'll be ready to dive.
right, Bridge, here we go.
Yep, whenever you're ready.
Okay, let's go ahead and come to an all stop.
This is the LF. I have a green board, life support good. Am I ready to pump?
Yeah, LF, you're clear to dive, clear to dive. Kelly, do your dad proud.
Here we are, 10,528 meters, about 400 meters to go for where I think we are, preparing the submarine to gently land on the bottom.
And there it is.
There it is, the bottom of the Challenger Deep, Western
Pool.
No one's been here
We're
in
at the
60
bottom.
years. Touchdown.
Touchdown.
We're at the bottom of the Western Pool.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations, John.
Thank you, Victor.
No worries, Kelly. Congratulations.
Woo! Here we are.
Surface, LF, depth, 10893.
At the bottom, congratulations.
While on bottom, Victor and Kelly found long lengths of white cable. While impossible to know exactly where it might have come from, it's likely from an ROV of some sort.
Water cable.
Yep. God, they left a lot down here. Huge, just white tether cable.
Good thing there's no fish down here to get entangled in it.
As they continued on, they found lander scaff, and then continued to find some interesting rock formations. It was an experience Kelly could now say he shared with his father.
And we have liftoff off the bottom.
Cool.
How was your time on bottom?
Thank you so much, Victor. This
You're
is
welcome.
tremendous.
No worries.
I mean, wow. I don't want to beat my dad by considerable amounts.
He went first, but you went longer.
Yeah. It was incredible. The 12 hours flew by. It was not, there wasn't a moment where I was bored, tired. It was just constant excitement.
It's the first journey for anyone since 1960 to the Western Pool of the Challenger Deep. Great to have Kelly Walsh, the son of Don Walsh, sitting right next to me for the whole dive and hearing him experience it all. It was a great dive.
The next morning, Kelly was excited to make a call and share the news of his dive with his father.
Hello?
Hi, Dad. It's Kelly.
Hi, Kelly. Are you back?
We're back up top. We're on the surface, and after a successful dive to the Challenger Deep Western Pool, where you were 60 years ago.
Oh, that's wonderful. Kelly, that's the best Father's Day present a dad could ever ask for.
Yeah, well, I thought about you all the way down and all the way back up, what you must have been experiencing, and about 4 hours down there to your 20 minutes, so I had a lot more time to think about it.
Well, thank you. I'm very proud of you and just delighted at the generosity of Victor to make this opportunity available to you. And well done to everybody. Please wish all my friends out there and shipmate all the best, please.
I will. Love you, Dad.
Love you. Bye-bye, son.
Bye-bye. And we're out.
The first phase of this expedition is nearing its end, with only 2 dives remaining. The next specialist planning to visit Challenger Deep with Victor was born in Taiwan.
Bringing Dr. Y.T. Lin on board for a dive of the Challenger Deep had a couple of motivations. One, of course, is that he works very closely at the Woods Hole Institution, which is one of the foremost institutions for deep ocean research. The second is that he's a deep water acoustics expert, and we haven't had an expert in that discipline yet on the ship really do experiments and collect science, and he's done that. And he's also a native of Taiwan. His whole field that he's been studying for decades is really how sound waves travel in the deep areas of the ocean, including the trenches. So that could actually be useful to us as we try to improve our underwater navigation and communications. And he actually worked with our sonar department and our comms team to actually help us in increasing the capability of our own systems on board. So he was great not just to do pure research in his field, but also tactically help us.
My name is In Chong Lin. People call me YT, my initials. And I'm a scientist from Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution. It actually really is my honor to be the first Taiwanese who will be diving down to the deepest point of the ocean. And I also, again, very proud representing Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution.
Yet another successful dive. There's one last specialist left to take down in Jim Wigington. 6 full ocean depth dives were made in only 14 days. An incredible achievement. Records were made, along with memories, during this historic trip. The door to the deep has been unlocked. And with the ability to repeatedly dive to the deepest points on our planet, this system has undeniably proven its impressive abilities.
Like someone living in a tower in a castle, one can feel like what is directly around them is the world itself. And we are terrestrial creatures, and we live on land and spend most of our lives just surrounded by Earth. And yet most of the planet that we live on is ocean. And so therefore, I think one thing that we're trying to do here is to develop a system that makes the ocean more transparent. I can't prevent it from being dark, but what I can do is make a system that will keep you safe and that can light up wherever we go so that we can go into the deep places of this world, see them and understand them, and not be so afraid of them, because we can go repeatedly and reliably and safely to them.